Welcome.
Let me introduce you to the. He's a modest one, so I insist on introducing him because it makes him uncomfortable, and the uncomfortableness is part of what keeps this great person honest. But he doesn't need me to do that. First of all, I just want to thank Yitzchok for his new book. This is a book, I think, that has been maybe 2-3 years in the making, maybe a little bit. Yes. And last year I had the schus of seeing the sort of the introductory brochure, the few sample chapters on Tehilim, and I just fell in love with this. This book actually is being distributed by Feldheim, which is a major distributor, obviously, of Jewish books. It speaks to the quality of the book. It's on sale here at the Ritz, and Harav, if I can ask, how much does this wonderful volume cost?
We're selling it here for 100 shekels or $25.
$25.
Which is lower than the price. It's not reached the bookshops yet.
So I would say of the new books, I always come here, one of the things I do is leave space to bring home great books, and obviously at least 2 copies of this book will be coming home for me. So I urge you to take a look at it. There's some books outside, and we'll have them in the back. With that, Yitzchok, please share with us.
Thank you so much indeed. First of all, I have to apologize for any people who came here under the misapprehension that they were going to hear a rabbi speaking, because it mentions in the advertising material that it's a rabbi. I'm not a rabbi, and I have to ask Mechila for anybody who did come, and you're welcome to leave and to have your money back for what you paid for coming to this shir. So Baruch Hashem, I was zeicha to bring out this Sefer Psalms that speak to you, which is it's a new translation, bringing the Tehilim into everyday language, and basically to be said. Most of the translations that we see are not to be spoken. This is our whole idea. It's meant to be our own personal hispoidus with the Rebbeinu Shalom. And let me link this in to some degree with what the Rebbe talks about. The Rebbe, interestingly enough, starts off Likutei Moharan with a posuk from Tehilim, Kuf Yud Tes, Ashrei Tamimi Dorech. And the Sefer, Likutei Moharan, finishes with a Torah Om, and specifically Om relating to Tehilim, Kuf Chop Hey. And I write down that it's about the wonder of Tehilim. And Tehilim is always, to me, a question of wonder, in the sense that I often wonder that people say Tehilim without really knowing what they're saying. Right? And I'm one of them, so I don't have to I'm not looking down on anyone, chas v'chalila. And it's a wonder, really, why Tehilim is not more widely used and understood. And it's very interesting. I go down regularly, fairly regularly, to the cave of David HaMelech in Yerushalayim, particularly when I was working on the Sefer, to ask him if it was all right, if everything was going okay, and if he had any problems with it, I should know. And the problems are coming up now in the actual production of the Sefer. But Baruch Hashem. And there was a child there at the cave, an American tourist who came in with his son, and I was sitting at the cave, and this child suddenly started singing David Melech Yisrael Chai Chai V'Kayom, and I was very, very moved by that, I have to tell you. And I wanted to look at this posuk, where it came from, and it's actually, I don't know many people know, it's actually a Gemara from Gemara Rosh Hashanah, where Rebbe tells Rebbe Rechia that when he sees the new moon, he goes out, that this should be a sign that he should say these words, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayom. And it's a whole reference that there's a reference to the moon beginning and to David HaMelech. Now, the only way I can begin to explain how I see the importance of Tehilim is actually by linking it to the whole tachlis of creation and the creation of the whole world. So it's a big Inyan. So let's go back. So in a way, the whole creation of the world is connected with the hiddenness of Hashem. It's brought, and the Rebbe brings in Samach Daled, the Kutim Aran, that the creation of the world, of all creation, even before the creation of the world, started off with Simsum, with the withdrawal of the Ribbono Shel Olam, creating the hiddenness of the Ribbono Shel Olam. And into that hiddenness, the whole concept of the hiddenness and the hiddenness of the oneness of the Ribbono Shel Olam, and the oneness of creation with Hashem, is the idea that this world is a world of confusion. It's brought as well into, we brought in Kabbalah about Shviras HaKelim, how the Kelim broke, and it's linked too to the Chet of Adam HaRishon. So the whole creative process is linked with an increase in multiplicity, an increase in confusion, an increase in the hiddenness of the Ribbono Shel Olam. Now the Rebbe Nachman himself speaks about this confusion that there is in the world in his story of the exchanged children. He refers to it as Heichle Hatmuros, a chamber of exchanges, where everything becomes upside down, right? And if you look at the world, everything here is upside down. And the most important thing that appears to be upside down is truth. I must tell you, when I come to Ummah now, after Baruch Hashem many years, the one thing I feel is everything is suddenly topsy-turvy, even here, there's music blaring out, there are stalls, right, charging extortionate prices for everything. I can't see that if any of the Gedolei in Breslev, who used to go and daven at the Tzion from the time of Reb Nosson onwards, were to actually see what's going on in Uman, that they'd have no idea. They'd be totally bemused, they'd be totally confused by what's going on. So we live in an upside-down world. Mamish, the whole world, all right? The Rebbe talks about this particularly in Lekutim Aran Torah Aleph, that the chashivas, the chen and the chashivas is not with us, right? They don't. We look at the President of the United States, we look at this one, and we look at the people who are standing to be the President of the United States. And it's a crazy world, right? The whole value system of what is going on in the world is something which isn't normal. It isn't normal. Of all I don't know how many citizens are there of the United States who are eligible to vote? How many? Yeah? 300. And they choose two. Of what is this the best that they honestly can come up with? And it's crazy. It's a crazy situation, right? But people don't think it's crazy. People think it's absolutely normal. So we have to learn, how is it that we bring back truth into the world? The whole world is lacking in truth, right? And our tachlis is to find the truth in the world, right? So if we look at Emaran Torah Aleph, the Rebbe says that there are three elements. There's the ches, which is Hashem's chokhmah, which is the will with which the Ribbono Shel Olam created the world. Or we could alternatively say it's Hashem's truth. This is the emes, right? This is the real truth. But the Rebbe says that we cannot come to this emes except through nun, which is emunah, which is malchus, right? Which is our awareness of the oneness and the greatness and the kavod of the Ribbono Shel Olam. It relates to the moon. The chokhmah is the sun, and the Nun is the moon. It says Yonon Shemoyim, right? The Nun, Yonon will be elevated. The whole idea of Rosh Chodesh, Rosh Hashanah, which is Rosh Chodesh, is that the moon starts from a dark place and it begins to elevate itself. And in the time to come, the light of the moon will be as bright as the light of the sun, because the light of Emunah will become as light as the light of Chokhmah, right? We will understand whatever, in this world we can only really go with Emunah. We can only see things with Emunah. We can only have Emunah in the truth. But in the world to come, and when we reach the highest level, then we get a little bit of Chokhmah, a bit of understanding. So, the Torah, the Rebbe says, is this link between the Chof of Chokhmah and the Nun. And it's something more than that, because Torah, the Rebbe says, learning Torah with koyach, learning Torah with strength, right, is what is the link between the ches and the Nun. But Torah is not just a question of sitting down and learning. Torah is actually a whole way of thought. It's a whole belief system based on the Torah, right? It's how we perceive and how we live our lives. It's a belief system based upon Emunah. And it's a belief system which is driven, in my view, not only by the mind, but by the heart as well. And if you actually look in Tehilim, it's very, very interesting that the word laid comes in many, many times, the whole concept of the heart. And this is what I had in mind when I was working on this seminar, that Tehilim has to be said from the heart. How many times have we been to gatherings where people say Tehilim, right? And they called out Nun Gimel, right? So we Mem Ches, we all Lamed Vav, and we all say it, right? And at the end of the day, we don't really know what we've actually said, right? Have we actually experienced what is in the Tehillim? Have we made the Tehillim an actual experience, right? In the sense that all the time we're leading our lives, it's all about experience, what we're experiencing. And if you have a look, that this whole idea is that we have to raise the malchus of the Rabbeinu Shloilo by experiencing through Emunah that is covered. We have to see the Rabbeinu Shloilo in every facet, in every part, and everything that happens to us. We have to see the Hashgacha Pratis of the Rabbeinu Shloilo. And that's the bottom line, right? And that's what Tehilim is all about. Tehilim is all about, it's not about being Zoicha, which is good. No one's saying you say certain words, right? It's very, very, very good. But it's necessary to say it with understanding and with emotion. To make time even on one line. Yeah? To say one line, you know? I was brought up, you know, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in pastures green and all, you know, right? First of all, that has no meaning for me for what I'm saying, right? But secondly, let's take even one line of this to see. First of all, we don't speak to Hashem as Lord. I mean, I don't go around speaking to anybody as Lord, right? God, right? God is my shepherd. Now, what does that mean to me? David HaMelech, the Rebbe brings, we'll see later in the Torah, which we'll learn a little bit, that David HaMelech wrote the Tehilim with Ruach HaKodesh, so that every word in the Tehilim, every single word that he was saying and every thought applies to every person in every generation from now until the whole of time. He knew it. He had this Ruach HaKodesh to see what we were all going through. So what do we say? God is my shepherd, do we actually believe it? Do we walk out in the morning from our houses and actually believe that we are being, that we have a guide who loves us, who shelters us, who guides us, who knows what is best for us? And if not, why aren't we asking Hashem to spend the time, Rabbeinu Shloim, in our Ispoidus, right? Now Ispoidus basically is David HaMelech, the Tehilim of David HaMelech's Ispoidus, right? Once you click onto that, then it's a way that teaches you to say Ispoidus, and it's a way that teaches you how to relate to the Rabbeinu Shloim. Rabbeinu Shloim, I got up this morning, I went out, I went to work, if one's working, I went to learning or whatever it is, and I never had in mind that you are my shepherd. Yeah? When I had an argument this morning with the telephone company, because they were meant to come and they didn't come, and they said they may come, and that they were going to come, and that they didn't promise that they were going to come, and that even if they did promise, they said exactly when they were going to come. You know, the usual Jackie Mason sort of situation that you get. That did I think at that moment, Rabbeinu Shloim is my shepherd? Did I ask the Rabbeinu Shloim to help me deal with this situation? When I'm going to shul in the morning, right, do I ask Rabbeinu Shloim, please get me to shul safe? And when I get to shul, do I say, thank you Rabbeinu Shloim, you got me to shul safely. Now help me daven with a little bit more kavanah than I did yesterday, right? Or at least no less kavanah yesterday, which may not be very great in many cases, right, including my own. But whatever it is, are we envisaging the Rabbeinu Shloim as being our shepherd? Yeah? I shall not. And most translations then say, I shall not want. I have no idea. I used to never know what that means. Shall I desire? I can't remember what I translated it as. I put, I shall lack nothing. The truth is, if we go through life knowing that the Rabbeinu Shloim is our shepherd, then the shepherd provides for his sheep, right? He doesn't abandon them, and he does whatever is best for each sheep, right? Each of his sheep. So I ought to know that whatever that happens to me, the Rabbeinu Shloim is guiding that situation for me for my own ultimate good. Even though I don't see it, right? The sheep put themselves in the hand, they don't query about it, right? You can take every word, every pasuk from the Tehilim, and you can find in it how to relate to the Rabbeinu Shloim. You can find how one's words can be words of chai. It's very interesting, because Rabbi Nachman in Torah Aleph, when he talks about the importance of the Nun, yeah, which is Emunah, and the Ches, which is Hashem's Chochmah, so that we can link the two, that we can perceive how the Rabbeinu Shloim runs the world, that those two letters together form Chai, and that our words have to be words of Chai, because they are drenched in Torah, that they are full and they encapsulate the Torah. And that our thinking process and there's a word today, people talk about emotional intelligence. Books written about your emotions also have to be guided in a certain way. And this is what Tehilim is giving us. Tehilim is in a way the five books of Tehilim, each corresponding to the 5 books of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Tehilim bring into our lives the whole of Torah, but in a way that each of us has to react to it, right? It's an interactive process, Tehilim. It's not something, that's why the Rebbe says you should learn Torah with koyach. In the sense you have to be active, you have to know what's going on. And it's important that whenever we say some Tehilim, that we understand what we're saying, not just understand it, but see how does this relate to me? Where is this in my life, and where am I where am I now in this? If you take, it's interesting enough, Rabbi Nachman says if you take the ches and the nun, right, you multiply them together, right, you get 400, which is the letter Tov. And also if you get the ches and you fuse a nun onto it, you also get the letter Tov. And the letter Tov, it means to sculpt, to engrave. And the importance with the ches and the nun is that the words that one says, particularly Torah and Tehilim, right, have to be engraved in a person's heart. Not only do they have to be engraved in our heart, so that we can say them with chen, right, but through saying them with chen, Rabbi Nachman brings in Torah Aleph, we engrave them in the hearts of those to whom we direct our words. Kaviyachal to the Ribbono Shel Olam. When we want to speak to the Ribbono Shel Olam, right, our words have to be words of chen. We have to speak to them. We have to speak to the Ribbono Shel Olam in ways that are beautiful, ways which involve Torah, right? But words that come really from the heart. Right? You know, I've spoken to, when I got involved in writing the Sefer, I spoke to a lot of ladies who go to Tehilim groups, which is wonderful, right? And I asked many of them, do you know what you're saying? And they say, no, we just say Tehilim. Tehilim is a good thing to say. And it's right. It is a good thing to say. But it has a completely different value. It has a completely different effect if we say Tehilim with the chen that Rabbi Nachman speaks about, right? Words have to come right from the heart. It's interesting that Adam Arishon, when David al-Melech was born, he wasn't really going to survive. He said it took 70 years from Adam Arishon. So in a way, you can see David, the chet of Adam Arishon, right? Everything to do with the chet of Adam Arishon must be connected with the life of David al-Melech. Or else we wouldn't have had 70 years taken away from his life, right? And the ikar of David al-Melech, the essence of what we have today, is not his battles, right? It is the malchus, but the essence of the malchus of David al-Melech is found in his Tehilim. This is the most important thing that David al-Melech bequeathed us, right? And it's something that goes around the whole world. And if you look at the actual wording that is in Tehilim, he talks about this world as being a confused world, you know? My enemies are rising against me, and this one is doing this, and this one is doing that, and this is happening, and this is not going right for me, and I'm having problems with this, and everything is this world of confusion and hiddenness of the Ribbono Shel Olam. And yet David al-Melech at the end or at the beginning, where he is somewhere in the Tehilim, he stands up and he waves his Tehilim, and he says, no, you are with me, the Ribbono Shel Olam. At the end of the day, no matter what happens to me, no matter what I go through, I have to know and believe that you are with me, that you run the world. I know what you need. I want you to be a king, right? And the malchus, this is the whole tikkun of the world is coming to us through David al-Melech and his Tehilim. We're not talking about a small thing when we say a few words of Tehilim. We're talking about something very, very important, something that is changing the whole nature of creation, something which is rectifying creation, that Hashem created the world in a state of where He is hidden, and we have to reveal the malchus of the Ribbono Shel Olam. And one of the ways that we reveal the malchus of the Ribbono Shel Olam is by revealing the Malchus of David HaMelech. The whole idea is that the Mashiach ben David, right? The Mashiach will come from David HaMelech, and my personal belief is that it will come through the Tehilim. That's what it means. That Mashiach, the whole idea of Mashiach will come through the speaking of Tehilim in the right way. David HaMelech says that Tehilim applies to each one of us, right? It applies to what each one of us is going through in each of our lives. And we have to know, as we're saying Tehilim, that this applies to me. Not to anybody else, but these words apply to me. And what I'd like to do is just to take a little bit from, or to take the Torah at the end of Likutei Moharan. And this is why I think Reb Nosson, when he chose the order of which Torahs would go into Likutei Moharan, ended up with Tehilim, didn't? And it's very interesting. We've seen incredible parallels between the Torah and Tehilim, and Likutei Moharan and Likutei Tefillos. Likutei Tefillos are the Tefillos based upon Likutei Moharan, which Reb Nosson took, right, and applied it to every situation in which we live. And David HaMelech was doing the same thing, and that he takes the inyonim of the Torah. He takes the inyonim of the Torah and he applies it in our direct speech to everything that we are doing and involved in. The way really to come to Torah, in my view, is through Tehilim. And the way to come to Tehilim is through Torah. They form this incredible circle. So let me just run through quickly what Reb Nachman says about Tehilim. He finishes the Likutei Moharan on this. It says here, Me'inyan Amiras Tehilim, Diber im Echod Omala, that Rabbeinu Zal, Rabbi Nachman, spoke with one of his Talmidim, and he said this, She'ika Amiras Tehilim Loimar Kol Mizmoirei Tehilim Al Atzmo. That the most important thing about saying Tehilim is that you have to apply it to yourself. There's nothing out there, you know. How many times I've said Tehilim, and it's just like saying it, right? I'm saying words. I don't think, am I fitting in? Where am I in this, right? What is my tachlis to megala the malchus of the Rabboni Shalom through what is going on in my life? Limso es atzmo b'soich kol mismo u'mismo. To find oneself and to apply oneself to oneself, whatever is going on in that particular capital. V'shala oiso zechrona livrocha. And his Talmud asked Rabbeinu Zal, Eich uforish lo Rabbeinu, zechrona livrocha kesas. Right, how? And the Rebbe explained to him a little bit that this is what we have to do. Ki kol ha-milchomo shebikesh David HaMelech, that all the struggles that David HaMelech begged the Rabboni Shalom about, sheyatzlihu Hashem yisbarach mehem, that Hashem should save him from. From everything we have to know to beg the Rabboni Shalom to bring it down to our own level, right? This is the whole idea of the moon, right? This is why we say the moon is emunah. The moon has no light other than the light that it gets from the sun, right? And we have to recognize and elevate through our emunah the light of the moon, which is the light of Malchus. Because Malchus depends on us. It's us, by acknowledging the Malchus of the Rabboni Shalom, which is what David was doing, right? That we elevate and we megala the Malchus of the Rabboni Shalom, which is the whole Ikar Tachlis of not only our creation, but the creation of the whole world. That Hashem created the world because He wanted to show it His chesed, And the way he shows his chesed is by us revealing his malchus, by being besimcha, that we are the ones who are joining in the malchus of the Ribbono Shel Olam. I'm from England, right? You may or not have guessed it, right? And when the Queen comes out on the balcony, lahavdil, 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 right? Lahavdil, right? On a special occasion, it's her 90th birthday or whatever it is, or this anniversary or this thing, you get hundreds, maybe millions of people crowding the streets below, leading up to Buckingham Palace, right? And they're all besimcha. They're all in tremendous simcha because they're revealing and enjoying the malchus of the Queen. Now for us, yeah, our job and our whole pleasure is to megala the malchus of the Ribbono Shel Olam. And not only can we do that, not just because we're subjects like the people who go there, or maybe half of them are tourists, I don't know, but whatever it is, what we are doing is we are princes. Each of us have an incredible connection with the Ribbono Shel Olam. Because we say, right, our whole inyan of Rosh Hashanah is the megala, the malchus of the Ribbono Shel Olam, right? HaMelech HaKadosh, Avinu Malkeinu, right? So what does that make us? If we say Hashem is our Father and our King, it makes us, each of us, princes. And we have to join in to megala the malchus of the Ribbono Shel Olam, and that is our greatest pleasure. And that's why the whole tachlis of creation was left with this hiddenness of the Ribbono Shel Olam, so that we have the role in revealing this malchus. That we have this role of this zechus of being there to reveal the malchus of the Ribbono Shel Olam. So he says, and every battle that we have, every day is a battle. Why? Because everything is confused. Hashem threw confusion into this world so that we should find truth out of all the various false truths and half-truths and spins and whatever it is that we get all day long, every day, right? How much can you hear in the news can you actually believe? Very little. It's either given out by PR people, or it's whatever it is, or it's or the news agencies, or whatever it is, or the journalists are not necessarily telling the truth. Whatever it is, we have to try and find the truth, and that the truth is that the Ribbono Shel Olam runs the world. You never hear Hashem mentioned. You know, can you imagine if today Kriyas Yam Suf were to occur? What would the news agencies say, right? They say, oh, you know, we've seen the certain children of Israel, right, on their way to the Palestinian land, right, whatever it is. And they're on the way to Palestine, right? And some geological event seems to have occurred, which seems quite extraordinary. But we'll take you over to a professor of geology and archaeology in Arkansas or somewhere else, wherever it is, right? And he'll give his take on it, and he'll tell you how often in so many years such a thing does occur, and it has occurred, and and it's very easy to explain. And not once will they say that this is from Hashem. They won't. I know the Americans mention God and all that in there. We mention God Save the Queen, and you mention God Save America, and all this sort of thing, right? But never in any actuality that goes on in our everyday lives is God mentioned. You don't switch on what is the American CB? What? CNN, right? And they say God performed an incredible miracle for Israel today. Have you ever heard such a thing? Right? And have you ever heard, that anybody standing up at the United Nations and saying, I'm not interested what you're saying. God gave us this land. Go away. Leave us alone, right? It's our land. God could give it to what Rashi said, God could give it to who he wanted to, and he can take it away. It's the beginning, the first Rashi in Bereshit. It's our land. Why is it our land? Because God gave it to us. And just because the whole world is created in an upside down way, he gave it to other people first, and he took it away from them and he gave it to us. So what's the issue? If you believe in God and you believe in the Torah, that's what it's all about. And this is what Tehilim is coming to tell us. In all our difficulties and in our problems, it's not just the Yetzer Hara, our inclination to do wrong and to do this. You know, what he's talking about, the inyonim of the Yetzer, the battles that David HaMelech had, are the battles of everyday life when we perceive the world through lenses which are blurred or confused or upside down. And that's what the whole world is. It's an upside down world. The truth is we have to put on lenses that correct this upside down vision that we have of the world. And that's what Tehilim does. It's suddenly you put on glasses and suddenly you see things clearly. I don't know if anybody here, I remember the first time when I was a teenager. Now that's going back a few years, right? When I was a teenager, I was given glasses to wear. I didn't realize I needed glasses, right? And I suddenly put on these glasses and I saw things that I'd never seen before. I didn't realize that in England we have buildings made of brick, right? I didn't realize that there was cement between each of the bricks. All I saw was a blur. Do you understand? I saw a reddish blur, and I suddenly could see that there were bricks in the world. And I suddenly saw colors, and I suddenly saw things that I'd never ever seen before. And this is what Tehilim is about. Tehilim is the lens through which you will suddenly see the whole world from a different perspective, a perspective which comes from the emes. The emes or emes, right? And it's a perspective which is brought to us by David HaMelech. An amazing thing, he brought it to us individually, so that each of us can find the truth in this Tehilim. Let's go on. And he said that we would, just as there were his spiritual battles that he had, so it says, so we have these spiritual struggles. And his Talmud said to him, Eich yiforish la'atzmo hapsukim. How can you explain it then if it applies to me? That David HaMelech said, "Meshabeach el atzmo kagom," that he spoke about himself in words which were praiseworthy. Shomra nafshi ki chosid ani. Yes, that Hashem should protect me because I am a chosid, right? I'm a pious person. So the Talmud said to Rabbi Nachman, says, how is it that I can say such words? I can't compare myself to say that I'm a chosid, that I'm like David HaMelech. And the Rebbe said that, you see, that we often, when we apply in Yonim, we can apply the black thing. Yeah, we do the Osham news and Borgad news and whatever it is, right? We clap and we bang, right? And we see the dark side, right? We can compare ourselves, we can under ourselves when we look at the Yetzer crawling up on us, and when we see the bilbulim and the confusions and the depression and then the anxiety, right? And to some degree, at that moment, we can empathize with David HaMelech, right? Because we know what in a sense what he went through, right? With the problems that he had, with all his enemies turning on him, whatever way that applies to us in whatever degree. But what about the other side of the coin? When David HaMelech talks about himself as being a chosed, isn't that a bit gaibadik? How can I describe myself, me, or whatever I am? So he says, so the Rebbe says, Gam zeh sarichim leforesh etzasva. Even this, also this, you have to apply to yourself. Ki sarichim ledon es asma lechafsachos, because you have to judge yourself favorably. Not that you have to deceive yourself. Remember, this is about the truth. Tehilim are about the truth. But you have to know When you do wrong, and you can do teshuvah, as David HaMelech taught us the whole inyan of teshuvah. David HaMelech taught teshuvah, right? But then he says here, you have to find yourself find the good in yourself. With all the bad that you've done, there must be some good that you can draw upon at this moment. There must be some aspect of my life in which I've been a chassid, right? Some time in my life. Okay, maybe even a person, the Rabbeinu Zal and Reb Nosson Zal talk about even the lowest of the lowest. Okay, but maybe at certain times they were a good child. Maybe at some time they took some old lady across the road, assuming she wanted to go across the road, that is, right? But at some point of time, there is some mitzvah. Maybe they gave some money, right? They were bullied into giving money. Okay, they did it because they know they get a big plaque on above the Oren Kodesh or whatever it is. But even though Reb Nosson brings this in a number of many times in Likutei Halachos. Even though, nevertheless, we have to know that even though I've done all this wrong and this wrong and this wrong and this wrong, nevertheless I've got good points within me. And even if I can't find those good points, I'm still a prince. I'm connected to the Ribbono Shel Olam, right? And so I can call myself a chassid. I can pick myself up. I have to know how to pick myself up. And the Tehilim at the end of the day also teach you this. Boki, we know the Torah of the Ikka Torah of Likutei Moharan. There are two really. The Torah Vav in the first Chelek and Peiches in the second Chelek. The Peiches in the, is it Peiches, Peivav, whatever it is. Pei base in the second Chelek. That we have to know that even if we have to go forward, David HaMelech always teaches us, right? You have to go forward, let me come nearer, let me not be complacent, Ribbono Shel Olam. But even though I fall, no matter where I fall or how I fall or what I've done, I know that you are there, right there with me, Ribbono Shel Olam. You are right there and I can pick myself up. Because I know I've got chashivas, and I know that whatever I've done does not spoil. I always find people don't understand this in it. That we look, often it's brought, our aveiros are weighed up against Masim Tovim and all this sort of thing. We don't know how much Reb Nosson brings in the beginning of Likutei Halachos. We don't understand the weight that each mitzvah has. It's all very well, we think, there's one mitzvah here, and I didn't do this on Shabbos, or I did this on Shabbos, or whatever it is, right? One counteracts the other. The Reb Nosson writes, we don't understand the chashivas of every mitzvah, and it outweighs all the aveiros. And we have to know, we have to look at that, and we have to know as well that each of our mitzvahs, any good that we have done, is not contaminated whatsoever by any aveiros that we've done, and that we can draw on the good points, right? And it's like having most people think about mitzvahs and aveiros as like a big can of paint, and you spill into it sort of some black paint, and the whole thing gets turned around. You end up with some dirty sort of grey, right? It's not like that at all. What you have to think about is the mitzvahs are like diamonds. Each mitzvah is like an incredible diamond. Now you can get dirt thrown on the diamonds, right? We do. We're messing up all the time. But you know that it doesn't essentially change the nature of the diamond. That all you have to do is pick out the diamond, polish it up a little bit, and it's there. It's brand new, right? It's an incredible thought, and that's what we learn from David HaMelech. He says here, David HaMelech. He says here that Oid Omar la Rabbeinu Zal Haloi Babeke Onu Oyrim B'Tchila Mo'onu Machayecho etc. Onu Maktinim Atzmeinu Mo'oid. We say, what are we? In the beginning we say in the morning, Manu, what are we? What is our lives? We make it out as if we're not. Well, I won't go to the Indian of Anivas and Ma, but that's a separate Indian. But we often say, well, what are we? What have we done? What do we have achieved? What is our lives? What are all sort of thing. But then the Rebbe says, Aval anachnu amcho b'nei brisecho. We have to know that we are princes, that you, the Rabboni Shalom, are our father and our king, and that we have a direct relationship with you. And we can say it upon ourselves. That we can talk about our greatness. Not through any sense of gaiva, but we can talk about our greatness because of our relationship with the Rabboni Shalom. And that's what we have to promote, to generate, and to make grow through Tehilim, through Rosh Hashanah. This is the whole Indian. Rosh Hashanah is on Rosh Chodesh, right? It's when the moon, it's when the world is at, these things are its blackest. But its blackest, it has the potential for the greatest light to shine. And at the darkest time, even the smallest bit of light that we can find in ourselves and in other people, that fills and takes away the darkness. That we have to go with this Inyan in our lives. And my suggestion for everyone here is that we find it just in the same way that the Rebbe finished off, or Reb Nosson put this Torah at the end of Likutei Moharan, is to teach us that we have to go with our good points. He finishes off here, he says, V'ayim mizeh sefer rishon and reich pei beis, and he feels that azamra lelokai b'aydi. He refers us back to the Torah Reish Pei Beis in the first Chelek, and that's how it ends up. Then it says Chazak, 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 right? Which I heard from Rav Rosenfeld, Zeches Tzadik Livrocha, is the gematria of Moshe. The 150 each, 3 times 115 is 345, which is the gematria of Moshe Rabbeinu. So we have to know that when we finish the Torah, when we finish everything, at the end of the day we have to be strong, right? We have to know where our strengths come from. We have to know that basically for us, we've got Tzaddikim, Baruch Hashem, we have the Rebbe, and we're all here because we appreciate and understand what the Rebbe can do for us. But we have to do our bit as well, right? We have to respond. And the way we respond is by following the eitzes of the Rebbe. And one of the eitzes of the Rebbe is for us to say Tehilim. And clearly to say Tehilim as it applies to each of us. We should all be zoicher to be able to say Tehilim at the cave. The Rebbe chose 10 Tehilim, right? He didn't choose anything else. He said, this is a tikkun, right? He chose 10 Tehilim, and he said these 10 Tehilim encapsulate and incorporate the whole of Tehilim. And in fact, at the beginning, he said you can say any 10 Tehilim. It was only later that he specified these particular 10 Tehilim. So Tehilim are the key. In my view, and for what I can understand, it's the key for us to perform the tikkun that we need, and the reason the Rabboni Shalom created us in the world. Anyone have any questions for the next?